Hello, Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security. We had a Q&A with a short little clip discussion on a particular topic. So I'm going to attach it for you here. It might be something that you're interested in if you clicked on this header. And following that, we're going to go through it a little bit more. So just wanted to give you the heads up. This is where it started from, and then we'll have the bigger discussion right after. All right, chat with you later. Bye-bye. My 5-year-old gets SSI. I'm her payee. Yeah, I historically got approved medically for SSI, waiting for PERC. Lived together with my mom and daughter. No way to pay, so going to do a bona fide loan on shelter. Any tips? I can't really give you a tip on what to do based on that information, other than if the bona fide loan paperwork, and they have forms for that you can use. You've probably found it. That's good. And if they ignore that, then it's, there's two. You can even have the mom sign, you sign. I would fight that. If you were on the hook for rent and your mom's cutting you a break by letting you slide until you get back on your feet, and then you got to start pay the rent, and plus throw an extra $25 a month to make up for all the couple years or whatever, I would appeal that. That's not a medical appeal, so it shouldn't trigger any kind of medical anything. They're not able to review the decision that they already made on the medical. It would be purely non-medical. Because I believe, and I meant to look this up the other day because I saw this problem. I don't know if someone was telling me, but I believe it might be in POMS somewhere, POMS, that they are supposed to, if paperwork is submitted and there's nothing to the contrary to indicate it's false paperwork or she's really not on the hook, and those bona fides can be after the fact saying, I've been loaning her this on a verbal for 2 years. This was our understanding from 2 years ago. They're supposed to accept that, your word on that paperwork signed under oath, so you could go to prison if you were lying about it existing as an arrangement. And that is supposed to be what they do, collect the confirming documentation, both parties swear to it, and there's nothing to suggest otherwise. So to me, I would appeal. But I will try. I'm going to put a note. I'm going to try to get that, because that's kind of a big deal. And I think it's happening a lot. They don't think you're going to appeal, perhaps. So they just say, no, you get a third rejection. Let me just say POMS, evidence consideration, I guess, of bona fide loan. God, my handwriting is horrible. All right. I will try, Stacy, to find that POMS, because remember, it has to be the arrangement was made back when it was made, even if it was verbal. Yeah, of course I have to pay my mom like she's not loaded, and if it is, it is, if you don't fabricate, of course, but if it was the arrangement, and a lot of times people make the arrangement in families and then they never talk about it again because they're family, number one, and the understanding is already there that until you get better, you get back to work, you come into money, till you're able to pay me, it's got to be an unconditional loan, Stacy. So it can't be where, well, I would only have to pay her if I got money back. No, it's got to be unconditional, which means, let's say you died and then, not to be morbid, let's say you passed away and it turned out that you had an account you didn't even know about, and there's, $30,000 in there. Nobody knew, including you. Maybe it was whatever, and you could as long as that landlord, mom or whoever, could sue your estate for the piece of that money for the debt, for any debt, like a credit card company would too. It's bona fide. It doesn't go away just because you die or because you never get. It's always going to be a legitimate loan. If that's the case, I believe there's something to the fact that they have to take what you say, and unless they can't just go and decide, I don't feel like believing her, that I need to find the POMS. Hey, so if the subject matter of the video you just listened to is of interest and you want more on it, stay tuned. Here's another one about the same topic, but a little bit different. Bye now. Hey, so when it comes to SSI, your living arrangements are really, really critical. If the SSA, when it looks at each month that you have potentially been eligible for an SSI benefit payment, when it looks at your living arrangements, if you are being gifted your living arrangement, your shelter, the basic utilities that go with that would be heat. I think garbage is included in there, water, electric, the basics. if those are being gifted to you without an expectation or even a verbal understanding that you're going to start paying back what was provided to you while you couldn't pay because you had no income and couldn't work, if that is a gift and not a understood loan, when the SSA goes back and looks at all the months to see how much retro it's going to owe you or prospective, it's going to essentially subtract out about a third of the full SSI benefit to not be included in your benefit because that portion is for shelter and you're getting it for free from somebody else. So make sure you know what you're doing and what you can expect. People sometimes get shocked when they're not getting the full 900 and something now because they were being gifted their shelter. Sometimes the person gifting to them didn't expect it to be a gift and maybe thought it was a loan. So it's something to think about, because if it was a loan and you are back in whatever month previously, or you guys discussed it and you were going to be paying that back when you came into your income, whether you recovered, inherited, won the lottery, or won a disability case, it doesn't matter. If it was for any reason and it was unconditionally understood that you would be paying back, you're going to want to make sure that's, ideally, you're going to document that in real time. A lot of friends and family don't do that. It's a verbal understanding. It's a gentleman's agreement, ladies' agreement, whatever you want to call it. And there is a form, I will try to link it at the end of this video, that the SSA has, where the person lending the shelter can document when they had this arrangement, how they expected to be paid back, that it was a mutual understanding, how much has been loaned out. A lot of times it's kind of like a flat rate understanding, like, yeah, you got your room and your board here for, $600 a month or whatever. And then you can add up the months they were there, and that's what they owe you back. If it was a loan back in time, and that question is satisfied, those months will be payable for the full SSI amount that's applicable for those months in that particular year. If it is considered a gift, and sometimes it is a gift, sometimes parents are like, no, I would never, ever charge my adult child. Then it's a gift, and then they will take 1/3 less for all of those months. And going forward, which is an easier question, are you paying your way? If you're still, living with friends or family, paying the, if you're renting, basically you have a room, you can walk through the house, but you don't really have domain and you're in your own little place there. If it's gifted to you, you're going to continue to get a reduced amount of SSI because you don't need the shelter component. If it is now where you are responsible for paying rent, and it's expected and understood, basically a verbal or a written rental agreement, then you will get the full amount so that you can use part of that to pay rent. It's easier to obviously think of that once it happens, when you have won your SSI case. But it's something to think about when you file for SSI, because you might want to make sure that you are responsible for rent versus not, so you get the more full amount. It'll be between you and your benefactor of sorts. So, but just something to know. And ideally, you guys document it in real time back in the day. But in the case you did not, because a lot of friends and family don't, who does that amongst friends, friends and family, there is that form where the lender of the shelter, who knows that there was an understanding to pay it back, can document that. And the only effect that's going to have, that's not going to be something where they're taking you to court or anything like that, but it documents for the SSA that this was indeed back in the day, not just made up now, but that back in the day, that was our arrangement. Yes, 3 years ago, we came to this understanding that he clearly wasn't going to be able to work and he couldn't pay me, but I'll loan him the shelter because he needed a place to stay. And when he gets back on his feet and has a little bit extra, he will start to pay me back. And that form, again, I'll link it at the end. It's about bona fide loan of like in kind instead of cash. There's a whole nother video. Cash is not king in the SSI world, but this is when they're giving you something that SSI is supposed to cover, because an SSI will not cover it. That would be the shelter. It also, in a way, although it's not part of this video, pertains to food and medical. But we're just talking about shelter because it's a very common one to see the 1/3 approximate deduction. So if you haven't done it before you prevailed,
when you prevail, you want to get your ducks in a row, because very shortly thereafter, they're going to be asking you about this. And you want to have your documents prepared and knowing what, refreshing yourselves. If it's been 3 years, and we're like, yeah, what was that again? Oh yeah, okay, we're going to pay the going rate. That's 300, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So just make sure was it a loan or was it a gift? And that way, when it comes to your perk interview, you will have that information on hand. I mean, you're still going to get SSI if it's gifted to you. It's just a difference of whether or not you're going to be paid for the shelter, because if it was a loan, you can be, but if it was a gift, you can't be. So if you need that document, that SSA document for the lender, the homeowner or the renter who was giving you the benefit of a loaned room all that time, it would be for them to fill out, and they could give it to you and you submit it or what have you. I should add that it's not like the SSA is going to come chasing you down and say, pay it, pay it, pay it. Obviously, you probably want to do that anyway. And oftentimes when it's SSI, it's, people do pay it back in short, amounts, because you don't have that much income with SSI. You might be paying back at $20 a month, because now you're paying your actual rent for the current month. Anyway, give it some thought. I hope that helps. If you are not intended to be denied part of your SSI for the past months, you want to set your ducks up properly so that you can properly represent yourself on that. All righty. Take care now.